Good evening, brethren. Tonight we're going to study Revelation 21. As you guys remember, we finished the previous chapter with the verse, and if anyone was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. So the previous chapter ended with the judgment, the final judgment, when the second death will happen. So if anyone was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. Also, as we know, by this moment, we are already at the end of the millennium, at the end of the 1,000 years when the judgment happens. So, going to the next chapter, verse 1 says, "And I saw a renewed heaven and a renewed earth." Normally, um, all the translations just write it as a new heavens and a new earth, right? So I say that because even though obviously can be said to be renewed, what is going to happen, um, because of certain verses in scriptures, the renovation of the earth and the heavens will be more thorough than it has ever been. And what I mean is that it seems like the Almighty is gonna just make a whole new reality, a whole new thing, with this reality as the example, obviously just without sin and evil and all of that. But for instance, just like we are about to receive a change of body, and this body will be pretty much, well, for the chosen few who will be transformed, the body will be absorbed by the new body, a heavenly body. So there will be a great difference between this body and the body that we will receive. So, in the same sense, reality will receive a new body, being the body, the matter that we see that has the form of mountains and rivers and all of the things that we see in creation. So, just like humanity will receive a new body, the entire reality, heavens and earth, will receive a new body. So, I say that because the word renewed kind of makes it seem like, well, at least similar to when, for instance, the Almighty renewed the earth after the flood, which obviously was a different land, a different set of continents and everything than before the flood. So it was a new earth, no doubt, but it was still, um, like I said, with sin and wickedness and all of the other things that will completely disappear. For instance, the fact that everything in this earth um, goes bad with time, in eternity, there won't be such thing. So we won't see any, what the second law of thermodynamics says regarding everything uh, being pretty much destroyed with time. So in eternity, that destruction won't happen. For time itself won't have power over that reality, just like space, not at least in the sense that we are right now trapped by it. So I'm just gonna go to another translation real quick. You can see this one also, but it says, "Now I saw a new heaven and a new earth, a new heaven and a new earth." So throughout scriptures, we see the Almighty talking about making a whole new thing, which was exemplified by the time of the flood of Noah, by the time of even the coming of Mashiach, when the Almighty made a change from the flesh to the spiritual. So in this case, we will go from time to eternity. So the reality will go through a great change also. So when I saw a renewed heaven and a renewed earth, if we go to Isaiah, for instance, Isaiah 60, we're going to read from verse 15. And you shall leave your name as a curse to my chosen. This is important. The Almighty is telling us that the name that the false congregations worship will be left as a curse for those who are chosen, those who actually use the name of the Father and the Son. For those who are chosen will be sealed with the name of the Father and the Son, as we saw in Revelation 14. So here we see, and you shall leave your name as a curse to my chosen. For the sovereign Yahweh shall put you to death and call his servants by another name, so that he who blesses himself in the earth does bless himself in the Elohim of truth. Not like nowadays when people tell somebody, and you know I'm saying it because that's how they say it. When people tell somebody, God bless you, now that we know the truth regarding that name, we feel a curse when they tell us that in the street or whatever. So we try and either stop it or switch it or something. Um, and the Almighty is telling us that here, how that happens. But in that time, that won't happen ever again, for we will all know the true Elohim, and therefore everybody will give blessings instead of curses hidden as blessings or disguised as blessings. So that he who blesses himself in the earth does bless himself in the Elohim of truth. And he who swears in the earth does swear by the Elohim of truth, because the former distresses shall be forgotten, and because they shall be hidden from my eyes. For look, and this is the verse, for look, I am creating new heavens and a new earth. Interestingly enough, the same version has, in this case, new instead of renewed. And this verse is talking about the same exact moment in time when we go from time to eternity after the 7th millennium. So for look, I am creating new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come to heart. There we go. Like I said, the former, this reality, shall not be remembered. So the next reality will be so great, so wonderful, that we won't have any remembrance of this reality. We will only remember whatever we learn, whatever wisdom and experience we get to attain through this life in this reality. But all the pain, all the evil of this world won't be remembered, just like when you wake up from a dream or a nightmare, and after a couple hours, you don't remember it anymore, and it doesn't bother you, unless you are like very emotional and you need to work on that a little bit. So, for look, I am creating new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered nor come to heart. But be glad and rejoice forever in what I create. Be glad and rejoice forever. Glad and rejoice, like first and last. And not only because it's two things, but because in Hebrew, the words used for that, the verbs for or to rejoice or to be glad, can connect to first and last. Just like, for instance, Mashiach, if we rearrange the letters, we get the word Yishmach, which means he will rejoice. So when we accept Mashiach, we receive joy, and therefore we will rejoice during the eternal life that we receive from him. And the same with the other word, depending on which one it is, because there are a couple more words. There are synonyms to being glad. So, but be glad and rejoice forever in what I create. So now from that time on, we will be glad and rejoice. We won't be sad ever again, because in this reality, which has a duality, we are sad or happy, as Shlomo said it. There is a time to be sad, there's a time to be happy. But in the next reality, there will be a time to be glad and a time to rejoice. So the type of duality that will exist will be positive on both sides. But be glad and rejoice forever. So there won't be time limiting the joy, nor death to stop it. So be glad and rejoice forever in what I create. For look, I create Jerusalem a rejoicing, and her people a joy. Then if we go also to Yeshayahu or Isaiah 66:22, for as the new heavens and the new earth that I make stand before me, declares Yahweh, so your seed and your name shall stand. So we just read on the previous verse that that new earth and new heavens will last forever. So the Almighty is promising us that so will our seed last as well. For as the new heavens and the new earth that I make stand before me, declares Yahweh, so your seed and your name shall stand. And it shall be that from the new, well, as you guys know, I disagree with this part of, or this, translating this word in Hebrew as this. And it shall be that from month to month, pretty much would be the true translation, from month to month, and from Shabbat to Shabbat, all flesh shall come to worship before me, declares Yahweh. So at the beginning of every month and at the last day of every week. So the beginning of every month representing the first, and the end of every week representing the last. All flesh shall come to worship before me, declares Yahweh. And they shall go forth, and this is also important. Remember that in the book of Revelation, the previous chapter had to do with the second death, the judgment. Now we read here about the new earth and the new heavens, and the end says, and they shall go forth and look upon the corpses of the men who have transgressed against me. For their worm shall not die, since there we will be in eternity. The worms that will eat them won't die, so they will remain in that state forever. In this reality, a corpse decomposes until there's nothing left of it, because there is time to do that. But in that time, in eternity, that won't happen. So for their worm shall not die, and their fire not be quenched, and they shall be repulsive to all flesh. So going back to Revelation 21, and I saw a new heavens and a new earth, for the former heavens and the former earth had passed away, and the sea is no more. So the former heavens and the former earth. So the heavens in which the angels reside will be destroyed and made anew. The former heavens, I repeat, where the angels are, not just where the stars are, but where the angels are, as we also saw in the book of Haggai, chapter 2. And the former earth, this reality, had passed away. So look, the fact that it passes away is like when a person passes away, but is resurrected with a new body. So the earth and the heavens will pass away and will be, in a way, resurrected with a new body, the new reality. And the sea is no more. The sea in this reality is beautiful, no doubt. So a lot of people get sad when they read this verse, not understanding the actual point of it. And if one gets sad for anything like this, for instance, is because one is not understanding what is being said, mainly because there's no thing in the world, in that world, that could make us sad or that would be bad in any way, shape, or form. So the fact that there won't be a sea would mean that there will be something even better. And I repeat, I say that because there are a lot of people who love the sea so much that feel sad about this, not understanding that if the Almighty is going to take it away, is because he's going to give something that is even better. But in the spiritual sense, the point here is that the sea represents the nations in distress. It represents the nations in pagan religions, following demons. That's why the sea has salt water um, that people cannot drink, so it represents death. Also, the sea has the waves, which represent confusion, destruction, war. The sea tries to enter the earth and destroy it, yet the Almighty doesn't allow it through the limit that he placed as the sand by the sea. The sand are the descendants of Jacob, who was told that his descendants would be like the sand of the sea. So that means that there won't be any war from the nations coming against Israel ever again in eternity. There won't be any confusion in the world. The nations will be righteous and will accept and follow the true Elohim Yahweh. So we could say that um, there could be something, a body of water, but of living water, and that would represent that union, that, well, the plan of Yahweh from the very beginning regarding the nations and Israel as the head of the nations. Not the Israel of now, the one of Yahweh, the true Israel. So I go back to the verse, and I saw a new heavens and a new earth, for the former heavens and the former earth had passed away, and the sea is no more. So also another point is that the sea represents Sheol. That's why the water, while the rivers represent life. That's why the water that you can drink from rivers, not so from the sea. So the rivers go down to the sea, like a person's soul, once he or she is born, starts going closer and closer and closer to Sheol, meaning death. And when that person dies, um, their soul goes to Sheol. And just like water in the sea is brought up by the clouds and then taken to the mountains, that is a type of um, the reincarnation cycle of the souls during this reality. However, during the next reality, there won't be a sea. And just in case, I know that those who are listening right now already know about reincarnation, but these studies may be heard by other people that may not know. And um, just in, well, in case you didn't know, in Judaism, reincarnation is something that is taught, is believed, not by every rabbi, of course, but um, by those who go deeper into scriptures or other teachings of Judaism. In Christianity, they took it away from the doctrine. However, if you read scriptures carefully, even the New Covenant, we find that reincarnation is a thing, and it happens, and it's part of scriptures, it's part of the plan of this time, yet won't be part of the next time, because reincarnation has to do with a rectification plan, meaning the Almighty allows the soul to come back in order to rectify whatever that soul did bad in the previous life. The other possibility is if he or she did something good, to come back and even and do even better things to grow higher when it comes to the spiritual soul, their level in eternity. So through coming back, one person can grow higher and higher so that she or he can receive a greater reward in the new earth and the new heavens. Since there won't be a seed in the new earth and the new heavens, that means that there won't be a recycling of souls. People won't die and then will have to come back, nor die and have to come back, like the river going to the sea and then going back to the top of the mountain. I hope that's understood. So the fact that there won't be a sea is because there won't be a Sheol, because there won't be death. There is only one possible way in which a person can die, and that is the only sin that is unforgivable in this reality and the next, which is the blasphemy against the Ruach HaKodesh. So that would be the only reason. And that reason in that reality will be virtually impossible for somebody to go ahead and do it. But since the Almighty will allow us to retain free will, people will be able to do it if they want to die and be thrown in the lake of fire, because there won't be a shield. So they won't be thrown to shield in order to enter again reality. Instead, they will be thrown straight away into the lake of fire, which will exist, but it is a lake, unlike a sea. So I hope that's understood. There won't be reincarnation in the next reality. That's why there won't be a sea. There won't be death as it is now, so common. So there won't be a sea. But there is a lake of fire because there is a sin that, because of free will, could still happen in the next reality. However, like I said, it will be virtually impossible, mainly because there won't be any inclination to do any evil. The flesh will not tempt us to do evil, and Satan won't be around anymore to tempt us. So there won't be any temptation at all. And we will know everything, and people will know everything. So it would be way, way, way too weird, dumb, and many other adjectives to dare to blaspheme against the Ruach. So just want to make that clear. Verse 2. And I, Yohanan, saw the set apart city, renewed, well, the new Jerusalem. And once again, I had to make that difference. And in this case, even greater, because as we are about to see, the new Jerusalem comes down from heaven, literally. So if it comes down from heaven, it's not the one that is there, so it won't be renewed. It is a completely new structure that has never been on earth. And even the Jerusalem of the past barely represented it, meaning in the time of David and Shlomo. So, and now Yohanan saw the set apart city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of the heavens from Elohim. So the Almighty will send it from the heavens. Remember that I have also, well, a couple things. On the one side, we're going to have already bodies like those of the Malachim, like the angels. So this reality will become a lot more spiritual than it is right now. And on the other hand, which actually they go together, the like I have said, the heavens, the second heaven is more like this reality than most people think. The third heaven is completely way, way above anybody's understanding or imagination, even. But the second heaven, where the angels reside, is a lot similar to this reality in the sense that there is a type of matter, what they call dark matter, and are trying to discover and open a door for, which won't be good at all for humanity. So the heavens, pretty much where Lucifer has been ruling, has palaces and pretty much like we see cities completely, well, way above in every sense in comparison to the cities of this reality. But I mean places where they act kingly. So in that sense, we see here that the Almighty will make the new city come down from the heavens. So something where people will live of matter will actually come down from the heavens where it will be made. And that will be the heavens where the Malachim reside right now, which, like we just saw, will be made new. So it will be a high reality for the chosen few to be able to enter, but the rest of humanity on earth. And that's why that new Jerusalem from the heavens will come down. And that is pretty much part of the prayer of Mashiach when he said, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, or your kingdom come. Once the new Jerusalem comes down, that is his kingdom coming down, for the king that he places in Jerusalem will be ruling from it. So that is his kingdom on earth. This is the pretty much the fulfillment of that prayer of Mashiach. Obviously, when Yahushua came, his kingdom came through his word, through his ruach, but in an invisible way. In this moment, it will be visible. It will be everything being fulfilled in the most literal sense. So coming down out of the heavens from Elohim. Look how it says down out of the heavens. It doesn't say from the heavens. It says out of the heavens, as if heavens have an in, like you go inside the heavens. You don't go to outer space. That's what I mean, as they say. You don't go to outer space, you go into. That's why Nimrod wanted to build a tower to go into the heavens. So that's why the New Jerusalem will come out from the heavens. So coming down out of the heavens from Elohim, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. This is very interesting because in Revelation 19, a couple weeks ago, we read about the wedding of the Lamb. The Lamb is the first who came 2,000 years ago and died for our sins on Pesach, the Lamb, who came to die for his bride, the congregation. As I always say, the first came for the souls, the last comes for the earth. And since the bodies of the chosen few were made from the dust, then their bodies are included in the deal. So that's why the chosen few who receive the first and the last won't have to die on the first or the last death. So they won't have to experience death on this first death. So they are just transformed. Their bodies are transformed. So the first, the Lamb, marries the congregation, the bride, on Revelation 19. Then we have 1,000 years on Revelation 20. And then on Revelation 21, we see the New Jerusalem coming down as a bride for her husband. And who is her husband? The king of the New Jerusalem. Just like David was the husband of the city of David. It had the same name, just like Yahweh promises in Jeremiah that he will give the same name to the New Jerusalem and to the last, meaning the same title, Yahweh Sidkenu, Yahweh our righteousness. So just like Mashiach marries the bride, the congregation, the people, the last marries the New Jerusalem, the place, in the sense of being the king of it, just like the man is the head of the household. And just like Mashiach came from the heavens, like the water comes down to get united with humanity, the last, as the fire, went up in order to unite with the New Jerusalem, obviously bringing down the heavens to the earth. So through the first and the last, the union of heaven and earth finally happens, which is represented by these words: coming down out of the heavens from Elohim, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. So I repeat, the importance, I believe, or interesting thing regarding this is that there are two weddings. One of the Messiah with his bride, the congregation in Revelation 19, and the other of the last, the king, with the New Jerusalem, adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the heavens saying, see, the booth of Elohim is with men. In Hebrew, the sukkah, as in, well, it's possible that it says something else. I'm going to go and bring the Hebrew version that I have of it. It says here in Hebrew, and I heard a great voice from the Shamaim saying, behold, you see, Mishkan Elohim. So he's making reference to the Mishkan, to what they call the tabernacle, the Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting, which was raised on the first of Aviv, which all points in scriptures to Mashiach being born on that day. That's why his body was represented by the temple and therefore also by the tabernacle, the Mishkan. And there are, well, two opinions regarding this. As you just saw, this translation translates it as booth, making reference to the Sukkot, to the Feast of Sukkot. Just like in the verse of John 1, certain people translate that as a sukkah, while other as the Mishkan. For several reasons and plenty other verses, I have come to be inclined towards being Mishkan and not sukkah. And I repeat, there are several reasons why I believe that. So that's why I wanted to check this, because the same possibility that happens in John 1 regarding the birth of Mashiach happens here. So just like the tabernacle was brought up, like started to be used on the first of Aviv, even though it had been ready for a couple months, that was to represent when Mashiach would be born. His body would be raised in this reality, in this world. Sukkot is a party or a feast of 7 days. 7 days. The tabernacle was raised on 1 day. Mashiach was born on 1 day, not on 7 or 1 of 7. And Sukkot has to do with the Exodus. Sukkot has to do with running away from those after you, trying to capture you, and the Almighty saving us. So that's what Sukkot is all about. While the first of Aviv, because of the tabernacle being raised on that day, is connected to Yahweh entering this reality and walking with Israel during the Exodus. Just like Mashiach came before the 2,000 years, which are 40 jubilees, which are represented by the 40 years of the Exodus. So a lot of people believe that Mashiach was born on Sukkot, and because of the false Christian doctrines, they believe that the 4 feasts that are still left to be fulfilled will be fulfilled pretty much in the next reality, because they are already expecting the rapture. And I'm seeing, like, nowadays so many videos regarding that, like how Christians are waiting for it like anytime now because of everything that is going on. And I am hoping, like, because like I tell you guys, I don't like to, I don't know, like to make contact with people that much. I feel weird. So I don't do it that much. And I don't comment on things, although sometimes I just have to. And when I comment, sometimes I do, well, I would wish that any of those teachers or pastors, preachers, whatever, would like to take a few minutes to listen to what the scripture says, pretty much, so that they realize how wrong that doctrine is. And it's so simple, yet when I write regarding those things, I don't see anybody answering, or at least I don't yeah, maybe I don't I don't check the comments or whatever, but they really don't care. They believe they are so right that they are not willing to listen to any other um, opinion or any other person. But like I always say, just like Celio knows, and Celio has tried, and I'm sorry, Celio, but if you know of pastors, preachers that are willing to listen and that are willing to realize that their belief may be wrong regarding at least the rapture, which is something key when it comes to Christianity, I would be glad, of course, to talk about that. But going back, the the four feasts that are left to Christians, the first will happen with the rapture, and then the wedding of the Lamb, and then being with him in the millennium. And they keep saying like pretty much things that if everything is gonna happen once we're with him, then make why would he make those appointments on earth in Leviticus 23 if there were appointments for the next life? Those appointments or dates that Yahweh makes with us are so that we prepare for the fulfillments of what he has promised in scriptures. And in a way can be seen like the dates before a marriage. A person has certain dates to get to know the other person, and then they get married. Once they get married, of course, they go out and everything, but they are not dates like they used to, even though some people call it that to try and keep the fire and all of that, like they say nowadays. But it's not the same once you get married, because you just live with that person and eat with that person and everything with that person. So why would the Almighty set dates with his bride for a time when he would be already married? That makes no sense in many ways. So going back to the verse, and I heard a loud voice from the heavens saying, see, the Mishkan of Elohim is with men. Now, booth or sukkah means something made with branches of trees so that a person or several people can sleep in it on the mountains. That's pretty much what a sukkah is a house made with branches, a temporal place made with branches. However, the Mishkan, the word Mishkan, is the place of the presence. It's pretty much what it means. The place where he resides. So it's a lot more likely that the word is Mishkan because of what it actually means, and because it's better for the Almighty to come and reside with us forever than for him to make a temporal booth like what a sukkah is. So, see, the Mishkan or the residence of Elohim is with men. So finally, by this moment, heaven and earth will be one, and Yahweh will be on earth through Mashiach, of course, through the body of Mashiach. He will eternally be on earth and in heaven through the last and the first. So the Mishkan of Elohim is with men, and he shall dwell with them, and they shall be his people. And Elohim himself shall be with them and be their Elohim. The title Elohim is plural, so it confirms what I'm saying regarding the first and the last, heaven and earth as one, as king and high priest. They shall be his people, and Elohim himself shall be with them and be their Elohim. Leviticus 26, 11 and 12. It says, and I shall set my dwelling place. There we go. Dwelling place. It doesn't say sukkah. So even that quote confirms what it says. So anyway, and I shall set my dwelling place in your midst, and my being shall not reject you. My being shall not reject you. Right now, because of his set apartness, because of his pureness, his greatness, it is just automatic that there is a separation between humans and the creator, for there is sin in humanity. Yahushua came to take away the sin from those who believe in him, so that Yahweh's being may not reject humanity. So, and I shall set my dwelling place in your midst, and my being shall not reject you. And I shall walk in your midst, and shall be your Elohim, and you shall be my people. I am Yahweh, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mizraim, of Egypt, from being their slaves. So look how we're in Leviticus, Yahweh mentions taking the people from Egypt because it had just happened. But now we are reading regarding the new heavens and the new earth in Revelation 22, and it connects with this moment that Yahweh promised that he will be with us residing on earth. So those two parts connect clearly. Therefore, the next verse also, meaning there will be a second Exodus for the chosen few that will lead them to the new earth and the new heavens, when Yahweh will make a dwelling place with men. So I am Yahweh, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mizraim from being their slaves, and I have broken the bars of your yoke and make you walk upright. But if you do not obey me and do not do all these commands, and if you reject my laws, or if you been loathe my right ruling, so that you do not all my commandments but break my covenant, I also do this to you. And start saying what would happen to the people for their sin, which has happened for pretty much most of history. So going back to Revelation 21, verse 3. And I heard a loud voice from the heavens saying, see, the Mishkan of Elohim is with men, and he shall dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Elohim himself shall be with them and be their Elohim. And Elohim shall wipe away every tear from their eyes. And Elohim shall wipe away every tear from their eyes. Like I said, there won't be any pain ever. As well as you guys know, this body cannot take certain emotions. There are certain emotions that when they get to be too much, the body just breaks down and starts leaking. So either through crying or even laughing, we could be laughing so much that the body just cannot take it, and then we start crying also. So in that time, we will have a body, and plus our emotions will be all level and controlled, plus a body that can handle all emotions, and therefore there won't be anything that could make us ever cry or have those issues with the body. And I was including even when we laugh, which is something good, of course. But it is interesting, I believe, that there are certain times when we just cannot laugh anymore because just the body starts hurting, which shouldn't be normal. We shouldn't hurt for being happy. And that won't happen. Even that, obviously, we won't cry for anything bad. And Elohim shall wipe away every tear from their eyes. And there shall be no more death, no more, nor mourning, nor crying. No more death. That's why there is no sea, like we already mentioned. No, nor mourning, for there won't be any death, nor crying for anything ever again. And there shall be no more pain, for the former matters have passed away. For the former matters have passed away. So once again, passed away, everything will be done with when it comes to this reality. Like when a dream happens and then you wake up, everything goes away like nothing. And as you know, there are a lot of people who claim to be atheists or are angry against the Most High because of the evil that exists in the world. because of the pain, because of many things that they see. And it's because they're short-sighted. They really cannot understand that they are in a reality that will pass away, and that this reality is just a chance to be able to enter the true reality, which they seem to like to want, yet they are not. um well, patient is one word, but they really, because of their ego and other things that they manifest, like the Pharisees, for instance, because of their envy for the power of Mashiach, of the Father, they reject the truth. So, for not being able to see the Almighty in this reality, they won't be able to see the next reality, or at least not in the spot where they would want to be. So, we need to understand that this and everything that is in this world will pass away. Everything that is bad, everything that is evil, every person with it, also every person that is evil will pass away with it, because it's part of this reality. If a person decides to be evil, that person is becoming something that only exists in this reality. So if this reality passes away, that person will pass away with it, because that person can only exist in this reality. So the person actually chooses to disappear from existence, in the sense of from the true reality, by being part of the problem in this reality. So, and Elohim shall wipe away every tear from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, nor mourning, nor crying, and there shall be no more pain, for the former matters have passed away. And was he who was sitting on the throne said, "See, I make all matters new. I make all matters new." And he said to me, "Write, for these words are true and trustworthy." These words are true and trustworthy. Once again, two things, like first and last. First, who is the word, and the last, who is the faithful witness, or the trustworthy witness. And he who was sitting on the throne said, "See, I make all matters new." And he said to me, "Write, for these words are true and trustworthy." And he said to me, "It is done." And he said to me, "It is done. I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end. To the one who thirsts, I shall give of the fountain of the water of life without payment." So look how Yahweh through Mashiach says it is done, right before saying he's the Aleph and the Tav. Because before that, before it was done, there was a separation before the first and the last. Before the it is done, the Aleph and the Tav appeared in two different times, while this reality had the duality that it has. But when this reality passes away and the reality of union manifests, then it is done. I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end at once. In eternity, the beginning and the end will be one, unlike now, which are two extremes in time. So it is done. I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end. To the one who thirsts, I shall give of the fountain of the water of life without payment. Look how it said the one that was sitting on the throne was speaking. So pretty much the Almighty speaking through the last, who is the throne. That's why he says that he will give to those who thirst the water of life, who is the first. Because the last speaks of the first. The last gives testimony of the first, who happens to be the image of the Father. So that's why the Lamb and the Father are sitting on the throne. So when he said to me, it is done, I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end. To the one who thirsts, I shall give of the fountain of the water of life without payment. The one who overcomes shall inherit all this. The one who overcomes shall inherit all this. We know that the one who overcomes makes reference to Revelation 2 and 3 and Revelation 6, even Numbers 24. In Numbers 24, Yahweh promised that there would be a person who would come and who would overcome. He would pretty much, through Mashiach, get to defeat the God of this world, just like Jacob fought Elohim and won. So in Numbers, we see that one will overcome. And then in Revelation 2 and 3, Yahweh promises, to he who overcomes, I will give the rod of iron so that he may rule the nations. In Revelation 12, we see that there is a male child who is born from the virgin, who is given the rod of iron to rule the nations. So he is the one who overcomes. And Revelation 12 obviously comes right after Revelation 11, where we find the two witnesses who will die and resurrect. Therefore, they overcome. So one of them is he who overcomes, who happens to be the one from Revelation 6, the rider of the white horse, who the Christians call the Antichrist, however, is not, for he goes to overcome, conquering and to conquer, yet the word originally is the same. So that's why some translate it as he will go overcoming and to overcome. So the rider of the white horse will overcome, and that would be the singular interpretation of he who overcomes. But obviously there is also a plural interpretation of it, and it refers to the chosen few who will come out of all falsehood and will overcome that falsehood by becoming the body of Mashiach. So if they become one body, then they are one, the one who overcomes. So that's why it says, the one who overcomes shall inherit all this, and I shall be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. He shall be my son. As we know, obviously Yahushua is his son, only begotten son, like Yitzhak was called regarding Abraham and Yitzhak. But then we have Jacob, who became the firstborn, just like Yahweh promises the last, and I will make you a firstborn. But not only that, in John 1, we read that those who have the name of Mashiach are the ones who are given the right to be called the children of Yahweh. So once again, the chosen few, those who overcome. The one who overcomes shall inherit all this, and I shall be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. But as for the cowardly and untrustworthy and abominable and murderers and those who whore and drug sorcerers, that word drug sorcerers has to do with what we already talked about how that sorcery in the Greek is pharmakeia, which is the word for pharmacy or pharmaceuticals. And it said in Revelation 18:23 that the great whore of Babylon, the great whore of confusion, will deceive all the nations with her sorceries or with her pharmaceuticals. And it is amazing to see it nowadays happening and to see how enchanted people are by it. So, but as for the cowardly, look how the first that he mentions is the cowardly. For many people will be lost just for being cowards, and that is amazing, and it's very sad. We need to be, we need to have geburah, We need to be courageous more, even because of the fact that we have Mashiach, through whom we can do all things. If we have faith, why would anybody be a coward? With faith, we know that it is in us, it is him in us. Whatever happens because of his will, and it will be for our good, according to Romans 8:28. But if we don't have faith, if we don't believe that, then we will fear, because we will think that he's not under control, that anything can happen anytime. So a lot of people, because of their cowardice, they are getting the injection. Because of the fear that they are being fed through TV and everywhere else now, even the internet, they don't fear Yahweh, they fear the COVID. They don't fear Yahweh, they fear the supposed virus. So it starts with the cowardly. A lot of people say, he will protect me if I get it. If you are talking about having faith, then where is your faith when you go and get it? So, but as for the cowardly and untrustworthy and abominable and murderers and those who whore and the drug sorcerers and idolaters and all the false, their part is in the lake which burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. Their part is in the lake which burns with fire and sulfur. Once again, there is no sea, but there is a lake. The lake of fire. They won't come out from it. Their part is the lake, in the lake which burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. And I repeat, the people that will go there, the cowardly, the untrustworthy, the abominable, and well, just to also connect everything that is going on right now, untrustworthy, like those doctors who are supposed to care for the people, yet they are not trustworthy, since they are prescribing things that are killing people. The politicians who are making a lot of money with these injections. All the hospitals, pharmacies, etc. The abominable, Yahweh calls abominable, several things in scriptures, but one of those is the mix of seeds, for instance, hybrids, like when the Nephilim came down and mixed the animals with the humans. That was an abomination. Just like it is an abomination for anybody to dare to change the DNA, which Yahweh made. He is the one who made the code. Now, for a human to play Elohim and to try and change the DNA like they are doing, that is abominable. And they are becoming, those who are changing, sadly, an abomination. Then murderers, for with that, they are killing a lot of people. And by forcing it on loved ones, they're sometimes killing them. Those who whore, like those who follow the great whore of Babylon, who listen to that confusion and accept it as truth. The pharmacies, I already mentioned that one. Idolaters, like they are seeing the injection as an idol. And the doctors and this and that. And all the false in general, those who are false, which a lot will fit there, of course. So 8 things which represents a new beginning. We are reading the chapter regarding the new earth and the new heavens, and how there won't be ever any evil that will rise in that new reality. Nobody will see evil as something new. No new evil will appear ever. So Their part is in the lake which burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. And one of the seven messengers who held the seven bowls filled with the seven last plagues came to me and spoke with me, saying, "Come, I shall show you the bride, the Lamb's wife." So, like I already said, Revelation 19, we read about the wedding of the Lamb with the congregation. Now, in this chapter, 1,000 years later, we read about the union of the king with the New Jerusalem, which comes down like a bride. And now we read this. One of the seven messengers who held the seven bowls filled with the seven last plagues came to me and spoke with me, saying, "Come, I shall show you the bride, the Lamb's wife." And he carried me away in the Ruach to a great and high mountain and showed me the great city, the set apart Jerusalem. So there are two things that could be said here. Well, several things, of course, but I'm going to say two. One is that the chosen few will be the heavenly army, as we see in Revelation 19, after the bride gets married with the Lamb. We see the heavenly army dressed in fine linen, so they are the same. The heavenly army would be in heaven, and therefore, if they come down with their new bodies, which will be, for instance, in Ezekiel 28, we read about the body that was made for Lucifer, the most beautiful angel in the heavens, in the second heaven. And it had precious stones, which are mentioned regarding the construction of the New Jerusalem. So the bodies of the chosen few as the heavenly army coming down would be the bride coming down with their new bodies to rule over this earth. But in the sense of a habitation, a literal habitation, like, well, the previous interpretation had to do with the habitations of the souls of the chosen few, who would be like the Malachim, which are one of those mentioned in Ezekiel 28, having precious stones. The chosen few are the bride, and the bride is the heavenly army. So the heavenly army, being the bride, will come down when the new earth is done. But in the sense of a city where the many also will reside, as we know, the chosen few are each a stone. Yahushua is the cornerstone. The foundations are the apostles, and the gates are the patriarchs. So once again, there we see the clear connection between the people and the New Jerusalem. On the one hand, the people will have great, like amazing new bodies that in comparison to this are as like a building right next to a tent. The new bodies next to these bodies. And Yahweh makes reference to precious stones and other things within the bodies, just like the New Jerusalem, which is a habitation, just like a body is a habitation for the soul. So going back to the verse, and he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, just like when Satan took Yahushua to a great mountain to tempt him. But now it is for a completely different reason. And he carried me away, the Malach, one of the seven, in the Ruach to a great and high mountain, and showed me the great city, the set apart Jerusalem, descending out of the heavens from Elohim, having the esteem of Elohim, and her light was like a most precious stone, like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. Having the esteem of Elohim, and her light was like a most precious stone, like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. And having a great and high wall, a great and high wall. Wall in Hebrew, we have seen how it is called shur, and shor, which is written the same way, is the ox. So the last and the wall are connected in what they represent as a protection, a covering, separation, etc. Just like I said in Jeremiah, Yahweh tells us that the name of the New Jerusalem will be the same as the name of the king, the branch of David. So here we see that connection, and having a great and high shur, a great and high wall, having 12 gates, and at the gates 12 messengers. Just like, for instance, every constellation is a house for the sun to be for 30 days each month. So each of the constellations would have a gate, and there are 12 constellations, for there are 12 months. So we are seeing that same image here, and having a great high wall, having 12 gates, and at the gates 12 messengers, and names written on them, which are those of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. Each of the constellations is connected to one of the tribes. They are connected in several ways, in fact. But for instance, one of them is Leo with the lion of Yehuda. Then, well, the ox, Yosef, would be Taurus, of course. And then there are other ones that are either through the animal that is seen through the constellation, or through the influence that it has on the earth, or in other ways. That's why I said there are several ways in which we can connect each of the tribes to the 12 constellations, as we see, for instance, one of the images that we have in our website, however, is one of the Spanish ones. So those of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel: 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the north, 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. Just like they were around the Mishkan, just like they were also around the Ark of the Covenant. 3 tribes on each side. So the same way in which they were moving throughout the Exodus in the desert is the same way in which they will reside in the New Jerusalem. So 3 gates on the east, 3 tribes, 3 gates on the north, 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. Look the order in which the 4 corners of the earth are mentioned. 3 gates from the east, just like Yahushua HaMashiach came from the east, like the light in the morning, the beginning of the day, that comes from the east. So first and last, we see east and west. It doesn't say 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the west, 3 gates on the north, and 3 gates on the south. It says 3 gates on the east first, and then 3 gates on the west last, which makes reference to the coming of the sun from the east and going all the way to the west, as Yahweh promised that he would manifest and show his name and his presence from one to the other. So 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the north, 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 emissaries of the Lamb, meaning the 12 apostles. So, and the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 emissaries of the Lamb. So there we see already the part that they receive. We will see, obviously, eventually, what that means in all its splendor, like what having their names there will mean forever. But we see here already what they get, in the sense that we have 24 elders, that several verses in scriptures and other writings point to them being the 24 prophets who prophesy of Mashiach from Jacob. So from Jacob on, 24 prophets that prophesied of Mashiach, those will be the elders. Then the 12 patriarchs, the 12 gates, because we came to this world through them. So we will enter that world through those gates, which are them. They have their names. And then the 12 foundations, because the apostles gave the foundation of the doctrine by their teachings, their letters, and the new covenant. Meaning, well, the new covenant that Yahushua made, but that they wrote. So the 12 foundations, because they were the founders of the true congregation and taught the doctrine that they received from Yahushua. But they are foundations of a great wall. I already mentioned the connection of the wall with the last, but obviously the last would be just the head of the 144,000 who are stones that would be part of that wall over those foundations. So, and the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 emissaries of the Lamb. And he who spoke with me had a golden measuring rod to measure the city and its gates and its wall. The city lies four-cornered, and its length is as great as its breadth. And he measured the city with the rod, 12,000 stadia. So approximately 1,377 miles, 1,377 miles, or 2,216 kilometers, 2,216 kilometers. Same, so it will be pretty much in the shape of a cube. The length and the breadth and the height of it are equal. And he measured its wall, 144 forearms. 144, the wall, which confirms what I just mentioned, that the wall is made with the 144,000 chosen few, who each are a stone above that foundation, which are the apostles. So, and he measured its wall 144 forearms, according to the measure of a man, that is, of a messenger. This is an interesting verse because there are two possible ways in which it can be interpreted. Either, since men already received by this moment the body of messengers, malachim, that's why the measurement is the same. It says, to the measure of a man, that is, of a malach. So we will have the same size as a malach. So that's why they will be the same measure. So the thing is that if we will be greater in every way and even like bigger, taller, then the measurement would be greater than what we can interpret at the moment with the forearm that we have. The other interpretation would be that the malach measure it by getting in the size of a regular human being of nowadays, and therefore that would be the measure. But since by that time we will have a new body, and that's why it says the measure of a man, that is, of a malach, then it will be the same measure, that of a man and a malach. But a malach is greater than a human right now, so that measurement could be greater than what we can interpret at the moment. I repeat, with the forearm that we have. So when he measured its wall, 144 forearms, according to the measure of a man, that is, of a malach. So now, by that time, we will be like the malachim already, for the measure will be the same. And the structure of its wall was jasper, and the city was clean gold, like clear glass. This is amazing also because we know, at least I haven't seen gold like clear glass ever. So that would seem to tell us that the more you purify gold, the clearer it gets until it is the most pure gold of all, which will actually look like clear glass. So the structure of his wall was jasper, and the city was clean gold, like clear glass. And the foundations of the wall of the city were adorned with all kinds of precious stones. The first foundation, jasper; the second, sapphire; the third, agate or agate; the fourth, emerald; the fifth, sardonyx; the sixth, ruby; the seventh, uh, chrysolite; the eighth, beryl; the ninth, topaz; the tenth, um, chrysoprase; the 11th, jacinth; and the 12th, amethyst, which are also mentioned in Leviticus as the stones that represent the 12 tribes on the chest of the high priest. Although there are some differences because of the interpretations of the translators when they saw the word. um, like there are times in which one word, one translator would think was one stone and another translator would think was another stone. So there are like couple, like 3 or 4 differences in the lists of Leviticus and here in Revelation, but it's mainly because of the translators and because the Old Testament is taken from the Hebrew and the New from the Greek. But each stone represents a tribe. So each stone represents a quality, a power, and those will be the foundations of the wall. The foundations of the wall of the city were adorned with all kinds of precious stones. Then verse 21 says, and the 12 gates were 12 pearls. The 12 gates were 12 pearls. A gate, like there, obviously can be just as we know them nowadays, just something to enter or come out of the city, obviously. But the fact that they are pearls and the fact that in scriptures we see how, well, for instance, in Judaism, it is said that there are 50 gates of understanding. So a gate can represent several things. For instance, Yahushua is the door. So these 12 gates could be 12 portals to different realities. Just like the foundations of that wall were 12 different qualities represented by 12 stones. So in this case, 12 gates, which are pearls. The scripture tells us that we shouldn't throw pearls to the pigs, meaning we shouldn't give the high and profound revelations to those who are not believers, those who will trample on them and blaspheme against them. So if the deep revelations of scriptures are represented by pearls, and those gates will be pearls, then we could understand that going through each of those gates will lead us to a higher plane of understanding, wisdom, and other things. It could even take us to a completely different worlds, different realities, 12 of them at least. So in the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each one of the gates was a single pearl, and the street of the city was clean gold, like transparent glass. Gold represents the kingdom, so that's why it's going to be there everywhere. The actual streets will be made of gold, but a gold that is not found in this reality, in this world, So it will seem like something else, at least when we read about it. Like transparent glass. In a way, like the firmament is said to be like glass. So the fact that it is like glass kind of connects with the fact that it came down from the heavens. And I saw no dwelling place in it for Yahweh El Shaddai. I'm sorry, for I saw no dwelling place in it, for Yahweh El Shaddai is its dwelling place, and the Lamb. This is an important verse because some see it as a contradiction with certain parts of the book of Ezekiel. And I saw no temple in it, for Yahweh El Shaddai is its temple and the Lamb. So a lot of people say, you see that there is no, it says that there won't be any temple, but there is a temple in Ezekiel. When we read Ezekiel, we will see certain things regarding that. But one thing that could be said regarding a physical temple is that here is talking about the year 8,000 when we enter eternity. It didn't say anything about a temple during the 1,000 years. So during the millennium, there can be a temple for sure. And that could be the literal one of Ezekiel. For this reality will still be like now, only without killing and all of that, for Yahweh will give us control of reality. Obviously to Mashiach, but Mashiach in us, then will give it to us. So another thing is that it says, and I saw no temple in it, for Yahweh El Shaddai is its temple. So he did see a temple. It just wasn't the temple that everybody was expecting. For it wasn't a temple made of stones. It was a temple made of flesh. The body of Mashiach is the temple. Like he said, destroy the temple and I will raise it up in 3 days. That's why there won't be a physical temple like the temple that represented him. For now, he himself will be the temple in it. So yeah, there will be a temple, but it will be Mashiach himself. I hope that's clear. There, we won't need any representation of anything, for the manifestation of everything will be there already. The true and absolute reality, unlike this one, which is an illusion. Everything is to represent something else, and nothing is really what it seems to be, no matter what it is. But there, everything will be what it is, and it will be clear. So, and I saw no dwelling place in it, for Yahweh El Shaddai is its dwelling place, and the Lamb, and the Lamb. So look how it says, and the Lamb. I say that because once again, it's the throne, which has the presence of the Father and the Lamb. But in this case, it mentioned El Shaddai. As I always say, Shaddai is connected to the last. In fact, Yahweh is he who was, El, he who is, Shaddai, he who is to come. So, and I saw no dwelling place in it. But remember what we read a while back, what the Malach said regarding Yahweh's presence in verse 3. And I heard a loud voice from the heavens saying, see, the presence or the dwelling place of Elohim is with men, and he shall dwell with them, and they shall be his people. So yeah, there will be a dwelling place, but it is himself. And not only himself as Mashiach's body being the temple, and Yahweh within it, like it was supposed to be in the temple of stone, but also what it's saying here is even more important. For what we just read in verse 3 would mean that he would be on earth walking around with everybody. But now we are seeing that everything that exists will exist within him. Just like, well, it is right now, but it is not clear to people. People believe that evolution, Big Bang, and all of that. In that moment, everybody will know that we all exist within him. So there is no place that we can make for him, for he is the place in which we all are. For there is nothing that can contain him, for he is all that there is. So, and I saw no dwelling place in it, for Yahweh El Shaddai is its dwelling place and the Lamb. So there it confirms about the body of Mashiach being the dwelling place. And like it said, for Yahweh El Shaddai is its dwelling place. It is he who is the place in which we are. In fact, we know that Yahweh is omnipresent. The word that they use in Hebrew for being omnipresent is hamakom, which means the place. So instead of saying that he's everywhere, the word that they use is that he's the place in which everything is. So they call him the place, hamakom. Verse 23, and the city had no need of a sun, and the city had no need of a sun, nor of the moon, to shine in it, for the esteem of Elohim lighteneth, and the lamp is its lamp. Once again, Elohim gives it light, and the lamp is the lamp. We just turned the B into a P. The lamp is the lamp. So, as we know, Yahushua HaMashiach said, I am the light. He also said, I am the light of the world, which is the sun. The sun was created on the fourth day of creation, and Yahushua came on the fourth millennium. And Yahweh said that one day is like 1,000 years. So he made creation in 7 days because they will last, the creation would last 7,000 years. So Yahushua came on the fourth millennium, for the sun was made on the fourth day. So the earth needed a sun because this reality is an illusion, and all that I already said. The sun was a representation of the true light. So when Yahushua came, he said, I am the light, the true light of the world, not the one you see there. For if you like, if Yahushua was not, obviously nothing would be, but let's say hypothetically that everything would exist. If Yahushua is the light, then everybody would be blind. And if everybody would be blind, then the sun wouldn't work for anything, for anybody. Nobody would see the sun. Nobody would see the light coming from the sun, for they will all be blind. So Yahushua is the true light that gives us sight so that we can enjoy the illusion of a light, which is the sunlight. Hope that's clear. So Yahushua came to open the eyes of the blind, physically and spiritually. For many who had sight physically could not see, like the Pharisees. So Yahushua is the light that gives us sight in the spiritual sense. In that reality, there won't be a difference between the physical and the spiritual. So the spiritual light will give us all the light that we need. So the sun and the moon won't be needed. It doesn't mean, and it doesn't say that they won't exist. For the scripture says that they will exist forever, but they won't be needed, which is different. And one would say, if they won't be needed, why will they exist? They won't be needed by us, but they will be part of the creation. They are needed for the plants. They are needed for the earth. They are needed for the nations. They are needed for the setting of certain times, but they won't be needed for light. That's the point. They won't be needed for light or understanding. Like when people look at the stars and realize what will happen, when they look at the heavens and trying to foresee what will happen, divination and all of that. So there won't be a need to look at the stars, for the light of the Ruach will give us all understanding or all knowledge about the life in which we will be. So, and the city had no need of the sun. Look how it says the city. That's why I said the nations will have a need of the sun. The city, which will be the heavens in the earth, it won't need a sun. But outside, they will need a sun. Who? The nations. And the city had no need of a sun. nor of the moon, to shine in it. For the honor, the esteem of Elohim lighteneth, and the Lamb is its lamp. And the nations of those who are saved. Look how now it mentions the nations, and this is important also because a lot of people, like, well, I would like to ask Christians regarding the nations. Who are the nations? Where do they come from? How will they be nations in that time? New earth, new heavens, and now he's talking about the nations. So, and the nations of those who are saved shall walk in its light. Shall walk in its light. So let me go to Isaiah 60, verse 3. Well, I'm going to read from verse 1. Arise, shine, for your light has come. Yahushua as the light of the world. And the esteem of Yahweh has risen upon you. That's the second coming, the last, as the king. That's why esteem is mentioned. For look, darkness covers the earth. That's why he comes like a thief in the night. Darkness because of the spiritual darkness in the world. And thick darkness, the peoples. But Yahweh arises over you, and his esteem is seen upon you. And the nations shall come to you. And the nations shall come to your light. So all the nations will follow us for counsel, for knowledge, for understanding, to know how to do things, to know how to please Yahweh, to know how to be successful. They will see us as leaders in every way, in everything, because of the light within us, which is Mashiach himself, the actual light. And the nations shall come to your light, and sovereigns to the brightness of your rising. Lift up your eyes all around and see. All of them have gathered. They have come to you. Your sons come from afar, and your daughters are supported on the side. So, going back, and the nations of those who are saved, remember that there are some who will be justified by their hearts. In judgment, their hearts will testify for them to defend them or condemn them. But those who are defended by their hearts, meaning that they love their neighbor as themselves, they fulfill the Torah, so they will be part of the new kingdom, however, as one of the nations, for they didn't accept Mashiach in order to be part of the nation of Israel. So, and the nations of those who are saved, other than those who died and then were judged and their hearts testified, we have those who survived after the 1,335 days of Daniel 12. So they would be part of the 1,000 years. After the 1,000 years, Satan comes out and deceives the nations. There will be some who won't be deceived, hopefully, and those would be able to enter this all the time. So there are two ways in which nations or peoples from the nations can enter this moment. And the nations of those who are saved shall walk in its light, and the sovereigns of the earth bring their esteem into it. So there will be sovereigns in the earth because there will be nations, they will have their own leaders. But those leaders will come to us and honor us as their leaders. In fact, like I have said, we will rule over the many will rule over the nations. There will be a hierarchy. There will be leaders in each and every one of those nations. And the sovereigns of the earth bring their esteem into it. And its gates shall not be shut at all by day, for night shall not be there. Since there won't be a night, for we won't sleep, because sleep is the representation of death. So since there won't be death, there won't be sleep, we won't get tired, we won't need to recharge, we will be charged forever. So there won't be any night, there won't be any darkness, which is what the night represents. So that's why the doors won't be shut ever. it will always be open for the honor of the nations to come. So, and its gates shall not be shut at all by day, for night shall not be there in the city. And they shall bring the esteem and the appreciation of the nations into it. And they shall bring the esteem and the appreciation of the nations into it. And there shall by no means enter into it whatever is unclean, neither anyone doing abomination and falsehood, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. Once again, the book of life is mentioned. Only those who are written in there as being called to be alive in eternity will be the only ones who will be able to enter it, of course. So, and there shall by no means enter into it whatever is unclean, neither anyone doing abomination and falsehood, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. So that's how the chapter ends.